Black and gold fans, college football fans, welcome in and welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we examine, discuss, honor, and celebrate all things college football across the entire college football landscape, but with a very special emphasis on our beloved black and gold squad of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Welcome back, guys. I'm your usual host, Blair Parks. It's great to be back with you, and I've got some breaking news, but I'm sure for all of you college football fanatics out there, this is not news because you've been looking forward to this all summer long and late spring. It's been a very, very long off season for us, waiting for this great sport to once again kick off. But as I sit here today and record this episode, Thursday the 17th, I can gladly tell you this, and I am so pleased to tell you that we are 2 weeks away from our first college football conference game here in the Big Ten, where Thursday night in 2 weeks, Nebraska kicks off at Minnesota up in the Twin Cities. Can't wait for that. But what sounds even better than 2 weeks out from legitimate college football is in a couple of days, we will be exactly 1 week out from week 0 on Saturday the 26th. Now, this year we don't have really a legit matchup, but we will be able to watch on week 0 Navy and Notre Dame kick off in the old country of Dublin over in Ireland, just like last season where Nebraska and Northwestern hooked up. So we can't wait to see that. So that right there is such a welcomed thank you that, I cannot wait. I'm just as excited as you guys are. I cannot wait for college football to be back, and it is right around the corner. Now, as usual here, this is a very, very special episode. This is my Big Ten preview and prediction episode for the upcoming 2023 football season. I got a lot to cover today, but before I say anything else, thank you for all you've done for the channel. It continues to grow. Views, likes, comments, subscriptions are up. Let's keep this momentum going, so please spread the word. If you like what you hear or see, click that subscribe button, get notifications, spread the word, tell your fellow college football fans and fanatics to check me out here on the channel, because here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, you don't have to be a fan of the black and gold because, hey, quite frankly, nobody's perfect. But this is a channel for all college football fans to gather. This is a safe haven. All are welcome here. And I always ask for, beg, and ask you to please get involved. Your comments are what drive these episodes, and I promise you, if you do comment, I will get back to each and every one of you individually sooner than later. So please, let me know what you think. Do you agree? Disagree? I want to hear from you, the college football fan. So let's get the word out there. Get involved. Exercise your rights. Let your voice be heard. Please get involved, and I can't wait to hear your comments and get back to them shortly after this episode ends. So, this is what's on the docket. This is what's on tap for today. So, my Big Ten preview and predictions episode, I'm going to initially start off with breaking the Big Ten down to 3 categories. Those teams who will be contenders, those who will be pretenders, and then everybody else. So obviously the contenders are those teams that I believe have a legit chance to win their respective divisions. The pretenders are those teams that, yep, it's just fantasy. It's all in their heads. Got no chance to get it done. And then everybody else is those teams who might be the first tier on the outside looking in. Teams that probably will get bowl eligibility, but that's really going to be the extent of their seasons. Then after that, or during that, I'm also going to go ahead and share with you both of my top 5s. And that is what I believe are going to be my favorite top 5 non-conference games that will go very far into determining overall record, seeding, and then even college football playoff ramifications. And then also my top 5 conference games, which will basically refer to the same thing. Who do I believe is those 5 conference games that I believe are going to determine who is ultimately going to win their divisions and advance to the championship game in Indianapolis, and then potentially to the college football playoff to hopefully receive an invite to participate in the college football playoff season. And there's so much on the line this year. This is a season like none other, the last season that we will ever see like this. We knew basically a month ago that next season, both LA schools, UCLA and USC, would be joining the Big Ten, but hot off the presses only about 2 weeks ago, now we know that also Oregon and Washington will be joining them. So now we're going to have 18 squads next season in the Big Ten, and they are doing away with divisions. So this is the last season you will ever see anything like this. So a season like none other, and a season on the brink, depending on the team of fandom that you are, because it's definitely going to be a lot more difficult from here out to punch your ticket to the Big Ten title game, and then hopefully games and invites beyond that. So man, I can't wait to get it on this year. Big season. And after I give you my top 5s and break it down to 3 categories, then also will give you my division winners and who I believe ultimately will take home the Big Ten Conference title this season and be hoisting the hardware there in Indianapolis. So without further ado, guys, let's get it. And please comment, let me know what you think. Let your voice be heard. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Can't wait. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. So the first set of categories that I'm going to present to you, these are the pretenders. These are teams that will be home for the holidays, so they can feel free to make their holiday plans as families already, because reaching postseason just ain't going to happen. Now, there's always the what ifs, right? If you can catch lightning in a bottle or circumstances and the ball just happens to bounce your way here and there. But these are teams that I anticipate are going to be afterthoughts in this year's Big Ten Conference football season. So let's go ahead and start off in the West Division. And I actually have 2 teams from each division that will be fall into this category of the pretenders. First is the Northwestern Wildcats. And unless you've been living under a rock, you know what's currently going on. What's the current status of this program? I mean, I expect little to nothing from the Cats. And I really did even before this hazing scandal broke about a month and a half ago. And between you and I, it has been handled completely. It's really a head scratcher. When you think about the intelligence there at Northwestern University, a banner institution in this country, that when you look at what has not happened, how this is being handled, it's really a mockery and a joke. The president or chancellor, whatever that title of that person is at the university, and the AD, neither of them have basically addressed this scandal publicly. It is an absolute embarrassment, all right? And I expected little to nothing from them, but now with this going on, which now has led to the firing of long-tenured coach Patty Fitzgerald, I mean, it's just going to be a season of let's just get it over with and let's get to women's lacrosse, which is what they've got up there at Northwestern. They have a women's lacrosse dynasty in place, and maybe the basketball team can crash the March Madness tournament this season. So let's see what happens. So, yeah, enter with Pat Fitzgerald's firing due to the hazing, enter first-year head coach, interim coach David Braun, which, to make things even worse, this is not only his first Power 5 head coaching job, this is really his first season even at the Power 5 level. Last season, he was the defensive coordinator at North Dakota State with the powerhouse there in Fargo of the Bison, there in the Missouri Valley at the FCS level. So the guy has no experience at the Power 5 level, and now he's walked into this. I mean, Big Ten Media Days, once again, just to show you how this has been handled, guys. None of the Northwestern players showed up, which was the right move, but they do send this sacrificial lamb there to answer all of these questions, while once again the chancellor and the AD duck for cover. They send him out there. It's just an awful situation. I feel for the guy, and yeah, it's going to be a long season there for Northwestern. So they will be an afterthought in the West Division. Now, the next team that I think will finish slightly ahead of them in the West Division are the Purdue Boilermakers. A lot of off-season movement and a lot of news around this program in the off-season, exiting at the end of the season. And remember, Purdue is off of a Big Ten West title. I mean, they did advance to the Big Ten title game last season, lost to Michigan, but during the offseason, the offensive guru and mind that he is, Coach Jeff Brom, left, and he went back to his alma mater of Louisville, and he's now their new head coach. And also, because of playing time, because of defections, because of the NFL, or because of fifth year being gone, basically the entire Purdue offense is gone. I mean, quarterback is gone. Charlie Jones, stud wide receiver, is gone. Their tight end, Payne Durham, is gone. Aiden O'Connell, their QB, as I mentioned, gone. So they have to replace everything on offense. And now they bring in a brand new head coach, former defensive coordinator at Illinois, Ryan Walters. So this is his first head coaching opportunity at the Power 5 level. And overall, I think this is a good hire for Purdue. I don't really think it's a great hire, but this first season, they are really going to struggle, guys, because of replacing their entire offense and now bringing in a new coach who has a totally separate culture and identity compared to what Coach Jeff Brom had. Ryan Walters, being a defensive guy, he's more defensive-minded, not offensively-minded. So there's going to be some learning curves there in West Lafayette this season. And it's going to be a tough season. And to make things even worse, they draw both Ohio State and Michigan from the East Division. All right? And their 3 non-conference games are actually 3 legit competitors. They've got Fresno State, who was the Mountain West Conference champion last season, who won 10 games. Gone is my guy, quarterback Jake Haener from that squad, but still a good team. They come to West Lafayette. They also play Syracuse at home, who defeated them last season in upstate New York. And then they travel, I believe they're on the road also, to Virginia Tech. So easily Purdue is going to lose one of those 3 games as well. So reaching 6 wins, not going to happen there in West Lafayette. All right, so we'll see how that game, how that team plays out this season. Quarterback from Texas, Hudson Card, transferred in. I think he's an okay QB from what we saw of him at Texas, but that quarterback room was just so full. Way too many cooks in the kitchen down there in Austin. So we'll see how he does. But still, it's going to be a lot of speed bumps this season. So give it 2 or 3 seasons. We'll look back and kind of review how that hire went of Ryan Walters at Purdue. So now let's look at my 2 pretenders from the East Division. And boy, oh boy, I've got to start with Indiana. Indiana will be the East Division's version of Northwestern, but definitely due to some different circumstances. No scandals going on there in Bloomington, but still, where to begin with Indiana, guys? You talk about a fall from grace for this program, and head coach Tom Allen, who, if you watched my bold predictions episode previously on the channel, I told you Tom Allen was going to be replaced either during or at the end of this season. I think he's dead man walking there in Bloomington. He will be fired and let go. It's just really a question of when, not if. This roster is completely devoid of any offensive talent and firepower. What little talent they have, I don't think they know how to develop that there at Indiana. I also question their strength and conditioning program at IU. It's so under the radar, and this is really, I think they're going to come back to what they were previously, the laughingstock of college football in the Big Ten Conference. Also, they play in, to me, I think is arguably to anybody, but in my opinion, this season will be the toughest division in all of football. Playing in the East, you're going to have to play Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. All of them are ranked in the top 10. The first AP poll came out earlier this week. So things are really stacking up against the Hoosiers. It's just not going to happen for them. I mean, but take solace, Hoosier fans. Basketball season will be here before you know it. So until then, just hibernate, lay low, and just bide your time. So it's just going to be, it's too bad we really don't have this year's edition of the Toilet Bowl or the Stupor Bowl, because unfortunately Northwestern and Indiana don't meet up this year on the schedule. It would have been nice to see it play out, just to see which one of them could notch one Big Ten victory, because I do believe both of them will go winless in conference. That was another one of my bold predictions, that I did say those two squads will go winless this season in Big Ten Conference play. So let's move on. The next team that I think that'll be a pretender, but they are just on the outside looking in, because if they do have a little bit of good luck, or if they come out ready to play and notch an upset here or there, they could maybe get into the next category of everybody else being getting to bowl eligibility, blah, blah, blah. Here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, guys, I do my own stunts. As you can tell, I don't do any edits. I don't do any retakes or dress rehearsals. I just click, record, and send. Because if I had to do all of that, guys, it would be a job. I'm just your common average Joe who loves college football and just gives a blessing and is so humbled to be able to share my love of college football with you. So Rutgers is my second pretender from the East Division. Now this season, I think Rutgers will show some improvement. They are building momentum slowly and closing the gap there in Piscataway. This will be, I believe, Coach Greg Schiano's best squad since his return to the sideline there at Rutgers. But I still think they'd have a lot of work left to do. And right now, Vegas has this team pegged at 4.5 wins. I'm taking the over, guys. I think they can get to 5 wins. And if they're able to just knock off one team that is slightly better than them, and when I'm looking at the Michigan State squad, that is a huge game this year in Piscataway. The Spartans go on the road to New Jersey. And I think if Rutgers can find a way to win that game, I think they will be playing in the postseason, but that's still kind of a push for me. So that's why I have Rutgers as a pretender for this upcoming season. But if they can win one of those toss-up games, I think they will get rewarded with a 13th game, get to bowl eligibility, which would be a huge step in the right direction for this program based on where they were when Greg Schiano came back and took over on the sideline once again. So that's my pretenders from both the West and the East Division, guys. Let me know what you think about my critique and my thoughts on those two teams. Please subscribe, comment, like, share, get involved. Let me hear from you college football fans from East to West, North and South, and everywhere in between. Let me know what you think. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pause my 3 categories, and at this point, I'm going to share with you the first of my top 5s. And the first one I'm going to share with you are my my favorite top 5 non-conference games that are concerning or involving Big Ten teams. Now, because I am who I am, guys, it's tough for me to pick 5. There are so many to choose from. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a 5 plus 1. So 1 honorable mention non-conference game that just missed out. So here they are in order. Now, my first game out, my honorable mention non-conference game, already kind of brought it up. Virginia Tech, the Hokies, who are in the midst of a rebuild themselves under second-year coach Pry, the former Penn State defensive coordinator. Virginia Tech travels to Piscataway to take on previously mentioned Rutgers. Now, this is a winnable game for Rutgers. I think they can win this one. It's early in the season. I believe it's week 3. So if Rutgers can win this game, I definitely think they will win their other 2 non-con games. So if they go 3-0 in non-conference, there is the better chance that they can get to 6 wins, guys. So that's the game that just missed out, is VTech at Rutgers. Number 5, big game, early season matchup. Nebraska travels to Colorado. And so many storylines behind this game. You've got, of course, new coach, new arrival there in Lincoln to resurrect Big Red. Matt Rule takes over at Nebraska. More on him a little bit later in this episode. They traveled to Colorado to take on Boulder. Colorado, the Buffaloes, who won 1 game last year. So enter new head coach Deion Prime Sanders takes over. And this is a huge game for Matt Rule. Okay, what he's looking to reconstruct there and bring them back up, they cannot afford to lose at Colorado. I mean, people right now are all about this Colorado team. They're only pegged at 3.5 wins, guys. I'm telling you right now, take the under. If Matt Rule loses this game, it's going to be a very tough season there in Lincoln, Nebraska for Big Red. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I mean, this game means so much more for Nebraska than it does Colorado. With Colorado's complete revamp of their roster, I don't think they even got to the minimum number of scholarship players. I don't think they did, guys. I mean, it's going to be bad. Another one of my bold predictions was exactly that the Deion Sanders experiment this season, at least in year 1, was going to flame out and be an absolute disaster there in Boulder. But we'll see what happens. Number 4, big-time non-conference game to me especially, Washington, the Huskies from the Pac-12 travel to East Lansing to take on Michigan State. And why I've got this one number 4 is, once again, my bold predictions. One of my 4 college football playoff contenders is the Washington Huskies. I picked them to win the Pac-12, 1, maybe 2 losses at most. But that's why this is a big game for me and what I predicted is going to happen. Can't wait to see if Michigan State, if they have that puncher's chance, are they going to come out ready to play, especially what's happened to them very late in the transfer portal window. And I'll get to that here in a little bit. Number 3, big game for me personally, this year's edition of the annual Cy-Hawk Trophy in the great state of Iowa. My Hawkeyes travel to Ames to take on Iowa State. Week 3, actually this is a week 2 matchup, excuse me. Week 3 is Washington at Michigan State. So week 2, this is why it means so much to me is, can Iowa and new quarterback Caden McNamara, the former Michigan quarterback, can they get a good victory on the road? And now what's happened at Iowa State with this gambling scandal that's affecting both teams, but definitely going to affect Iowa State more, losing their starting quarterback and starting running back due to it, that this is the game Iowa should win. But we'll see how they do on the road, and how does this new look offense there at Iowa look, and how does it work out at a hostile environment, especially in week 4, traveling to Penn State to take on the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley, primetime in whiteout conditions. So big game for the Hawkeyes there at number 3. Number 2, big game that a lot of people aren't talking about in the Big Ten. I love this matchup. Illinois travels to Kansas on a Friday night in week 2. You talk about a difference in styles, guys. This is like an NCAA basketball matchup that we love seeing. Full court versus half court. Different styles, different mentalities. Illinois is a grind it out, punch it out kind of team, wants to bring you into a telephone booth, run it down your throat, body blow after body blow. Then there's Kansas that's going to line up all over the field and just is going to spread it out, up-tempo, run, fast break. First one to 100 points wins. I cannot wait to see this. And Kansas is also one of my surprise teams this year. I picked them as an over for 6.5 wins, and I think they are a potential dark horse in the Big 12 Conference. And I also picked Illinois during my bold predictions episode recently to be another one of those potential surprise teams that could really catch people off guard and perhaps win their division and get to the conference title game as well. But you'll have to wait and see what I think officially at the end of this episode when that time comes. So please, if you're a Fighting Illini fan, you may want to stick around for a little bit. Can't wait to see that game. And my number 1 game, I don't need to say much about this. Ohio State, week 4, travels to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. You talk about the 2 biggest brands in the Midwest, maybe other than Michigan. I mean, huge college football playoff ramifications here, because I do think Ohio State will lose at least 1 game. So getting to the college football playoff, and I say that 1 game within conference, to make the college football playoff, they have to have that signature non-conference victory, and this is their opportunity. So a huge game for the Buckeyes, but also a huge game for the Fighting Irish as well. Can't wait to see that one in week 4. So that's my top 5 non-conference games, plus 1. Let me know what you think about those. Please subscribe, comment, like, share. Get involved, guys. Now, let's continue my 3 categories of Big Ten teams. Next is going to be everyone else. So these are the teams that I think will get to that coveted 6th win to get bowl eligibility. But when it comes down to ultimately the East and West Division races, they will be just on the outside looking in. Okay? So let's go ahead. I started off in the West Division last time. So let's start off in the East Division. So the next team on the totem pole is the Michigan State Spartans. I think Sparty is going to have a slightly better year, a comeback season, which they really need under head coach Mel Tucker. I should say Mel Big Money Tucker. I mean, his contract there in East Lansing, basically they just backed up the Brinks truck and said, hey, how much do you want for your contract? And he's only really had 1 season, so he definitely needs to get to 6 wins or more to kind of prove to people that it was the right investment. Because if not, there's going to be some rumblings there in East Lansing. Did we make the right decision hiring him to that contract and also to that length? I think they will get to that 6th victory, but I am not 100% sure about this. I'm fairly sure, but we'll have to wait and see. At the very end of the transfer portal window, and I brought this up a little bit ago, that their starting quarterback, Peyton Thorne, transferred out along with their best wide receiver, and Trevon Coleman. I know his last name's Coleman, so it first name kind of escapes me. They're both gone like thieves in the night. So this offense is really going to struggle. And when you look at the struggles they've had since Mel Tucker has taken over there, the defensive secondary, wow, they are absolutely open to the passing attack of opponents. So it's going to be a grind for them to get to 6 wins, but I think they will. I mean, that tough non-conference game I mentioned against Washington, then having to play Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. They also play at Iowa. And also, I think they play at Minnesota too. So it's going to be tough for them, but I think they will get to 6 wins, but I would not be surprised. So, Sparty, you got to do a lot of extra flexing this year in that uniform there and that as your mascot. So, and I really think it's going to come down to that Rutgers game, guys. I think whoever wins that game is going to get to 6 wins. The loser, will be out. Or as Heidi Klum used to say on Project Runway, you're out. Auf Wiedersehen. There we go. Now my next pretender, or I should say, excuse me, everyone else from the East Division is the Maryland Terrapins. Now, I do feel very comfortable this team can get to 6, 7 wins. I do. I think the Terps have the potential to slay one of the big three, the 3 heavyweights this season in that division. But as far as being legit contenders, no. They're still going to be on the outside looking in. They do return a very solid Studley quarterback in Talia Tagovailoa, but a lot of his weapons have now moved on from last season on the perimeter, and it seems like the same old story for Maryland. They're always a dime short, and I'm talking about they always seem to be short on one side of the ball. And defensively, I think it's really going to be a struggle. And also, can Mike Locksley silent his critics? Is he a good coach? He has slowly improved Maryland. I mean, he has, especially from where he took over. But this is still the guy that had a 2-26 record at New Mexico. Can he coach? He's going to have to coach this team up this year to get to that 6, 7 win ceiling and plateau that I think they will get to. So he's gonna have his work cut out for him this year. And I just don't think they're going to be that physical along the lines of scrimmage. Have to wait and see, but I think they will get it done. Okay? Their non-conference schedule, very Charmin soft. I think they'll go 3-0, and they can win 3 to 4 conference games. I think they can, and they will. All right? So that's my 2 teams from the East Division who are everyone else. Now let's go to the West Division as far as everyone else. Next team up on the totem pole is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Welcome head football coach Matt Rhule. Gone is Scott Frost and his entire staff and the administration out. They are moving on. The favorite son has now completely been kicked to the curb, if you missed it. He was during the season last year. Now, Matt Rhule is a proven commodity and a good coach. He's had great success, as Barat would say, with reclamation and rebuilding projects. I mean, at Baylor, with what he took over there after what happened under a coach Art Briles, things I don't want to even discuss. Being a father, of a daughter, I don't want to discuss what was going on there at Baylor. Brought them up from the brink. And then before that at Temple. So very good hire for Nebraska. And I think it will pay dividends. It just comes down to this season. How quickly will this team buy in to what he's selling? How good of a salesman can Matt Rhule be in year 1? I think 2 and 3, a couple of years down the line, this team will be in a much better position. All right? And it just is crazy to me to realize Nebraska hasn't been to a bowl game, guys, since 2016. Barack Obama was the president of this great nation the last time Big Red qualified for the postseason. I cannot get over that. How wild is that to think the fall from grace that this former blue blood had? And they still are a blue blood, or they could be again, but those days are long gone, all right? They've got to prove it. They got to show up and show out. But this season, I think they will get to 6 wins and qualify for the postseason, which will be an overwhelming success in year 1 for Coach Matt Rhule. Now, the next team in the West, as far as everyone else that I think is just on the outside looking in, is Minnesota. This year, the Fighting PJ Flex, my favorite, my number one man crush here within the Big Ten Conference. I think they will be rowing that boat upstream most of this season because they do have a good amount of people and roster pieces to replace: quarterback, running back, linebacker. But the culture and the mentality is so strong there at Minnesota that I think that they still will get to bowl eligibility. And quite frankly, I think this team can get to 8 wins, but their schedule is tough. They pull, I believe, both Ohio State and Michigan, and they're at Iowa. They play Wisconsin and Illinois at home. They travel to North Carolina in the non-conference. I mean, you talk about another game of differing styles, physicality versus run and gun. Can't wait to watch that one in non-conference as well. But I think there's just too much for them to replace to be a legitimate contender. Enters quarterback Aiden, the Greek god, Kolkianos, I believe his name is. Very athletic, more of a kind of a rollout kind of quarterback. They do have some weapons on the perimeter. They do. And it really comes down to just how far Minnesota can go. Depends on this new starting quarterback. He did get some starts last season, and when he replaced Tanner Morgan, who was in and out of the lineup a few games with concussion issues. So not making his first starts, got some experience, but it really comes down to what he can do as far as how far Minnesota goes, and also their secondary. Have to replace a lot there, but this is a team that's going to first, second, and third options are run the ball, and they are big and physical on both lines of scrimmage, guys. And that's what their calling card is. And that is the recipe for success for this Minnesota team this season. Do what you do. Don't get outside your comfort zone, and it's going to be okay. You're going to go bowling. All right? So those are my 4 everybody else teams, from 2 from the East, 2 from the West. Comment, let me know what you think about everyone else. Did I get it right? Am I wrong? Comment, like, share, subscribe, rate. Now, before I give you my contenders in the Big Ten Conference, now I'm going to share with you the second of my top 5s. And these are my 5 favorite conference games within the Big Ten that I think ultimately will decide who the real contenders are. I have 3 from each division, so each one of these games is going to involve my 3 contenders from both the East and the West. And plus, I couldn't just select 5, there's so many, so I also gave you a +1, my 1 honorable mention game as well. So let's get it on, my top 5 Big Ten +1 conference games in order. My honorable mention game, big game in Week 8, Wisconsin, the Badgers under new coach under new head coach Luke Fickell. No disrespect there, Wisconsin fans. Luke Fickell, Wisconsin travels to sleepy Champaign, Illinois. That's right. I love this matchup, guys. It's going to be big, physical kind of game. And I do believe the loser of this game, this is really to me an elimination game in the Big Ten West race. I think the loser is out and the winner is absolutely alive and slightly ahead to win the Big Ten West crown. And also, too, I look at this as kind of a bad position for Wisconsin. The week before, they host my Hawkeyes, so you know that's going to be a physical game. They'll get up for the Heartland Trophy, big-time rivalry game. So you're looking at a kind of a letdown spot. Or I'll cue him the first time making his first appearance on the season. What kind of game could this be for Wisconsin, Admiral Akbar? It's a trap. There we go. Absolutely. All right. Admiral Akbar in mid-season form already, guys. Love that. Now, number 5. Penn State travels to Ohio State. The storyline there is, how does new quarterback Drew Allar at Penn State fare going to the shoe? Big time game there at Ohio State. Number 4, Ohio State travels to Wisconsin. Big time game here. If Wisconsin can pull the upset, all right, and they did start the first AP poll ranked. They're the highest ranked Big Ten West team. It's only Wisconsin and Iowa. Iowa checking in at number 25, the very, very tail end of the first AP poll. That if Wisconsin can shock the world and win this game, that could propel them right back into the Big Ten West race, because that's the week after Illinois. What a tough stretch for Wisconsin. I mean, Iowa, Illinois, then Ohio State. They win that game. That could get them back into the race, but at least that's going to be Luke Fickell's signature win, season 1. And Ohio State, the previous week, week 8, hosts Penn State, the game I just mentioned. So, big-time victory potentially for Ohio State. You travel to Madtown to take on the Badgers. So what kind of game could this be again, Admiral Akbar?
It's a trap.
Thank you very much, Admiral. So, big-time game there between these two teams. Number 3, Illinois travels to Iowa, week 12. It's senior day in Iowa City, a game I plan on going to. And quite frankly, I believe the winner of this game more than likely will win the Big Ten West. I'm not saying the winner absolutely will, and that'll make more sense to you here in a little bit. But I think the winner of this game slightly takes the lead down the home stretch off of turn 4 towards winning the Big Ten West crown. I think a lot will become more clear at the end of this matchup in Iowa City. Can't wait for that one. Number 2, Michigan travels to Penn State. Hands down, I think Michigan's toughest game this season. Prior to Week 13, this year's edition of The Game with Ohio State in Ann Arbor and inside the Big House. So we'll see how that game plays out. And my number 1 non-conference game, it's got to be the game I just mentioned, the game between Ohio State at Michigan, Week 13. Not just Big Ten East ramifications, but also college football playoff ramifications on the line as well. So those are my top 5 plus 1 conference games during this year's Big Ten conference slate. Let me know what you think about those guys. You agree? Disagree? Who did I leave out? Who maybe in your opinion should be off this list? Let me know. So now let's move into the pretenders in this year's Big Ten conference football race. Now I've got 3 from each. Now initially I'm going to list them in alphabetical order, and then we'll slowly reduce the list down to my top 2 and who I think then will win their respective divisions. So we left off we started off with the East last time, so let's start off with the Big Ten West division. So my first pretender, I've got 3, is the Illinois Fighting Illini. Coach Brett Bielema, he's cooking with gas there in Champaign. They have such a solid culture, identity, and mentality that even though they have a good amount of production to replace, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and quarterback Tommy DeVito, his eligibility is used up, but we know what they're going to do. We know this team is solid defensively. They lose DC Ryan Walters, who, as I said, is now the new head coach at Purdue, but a secret weapon they picked up just about 2-3 weeks ago, former interim head coach and DC at Wisconsin, Leonard. He now is on the Illinois Fighting Illini staff. So, wow, what a pickup there. And that's going to pay off uber big time for the Fighting Illini. And they also replaced quarterback They bring in via transfer from Ole Miss, quarterback Luke Altmaier. And you know what Illinois is going to do. You don't have to throw for 300 yards a game. They're going to hand off first, second, third, and maybe even fourth option. And they bring back one of the most physical and best defensive lines, I think, in the Big Ten, maybe even the country. All right. And you know they're going to be big up front, physical on the O-line. That's where it's going to start and end for the Fighting Illini. So I don't think there's going to be as much drop-off as people think for the Fighting Illini. Next pretender is the Iowa Hawkeyes. They bring in a lot in the offseason. Out is Spencer Petras at quarterback. Enter former Michigan quarterback Cade McNamara, who lost his starting job last season due to injury to J.J. McCarthy. But remember, Cade McNamara led Michigan to a Big Ten title and to their first of two consecutive college football playoff participations and fields. So this is a proven winner, all right? You know Iowa's going to be solid defensively, solidly on the special teams. I mean, I'm wearing the shirt in his honor. My guy, the punter from down under, Tory Taylor, is back, who was just named first season All-American via CBS as the punter. You know what Iowa's going to do. They're going to be solid, and they should be much better offensively because of the quarterback play. They brought in a couple of wide receivers in the offseason, and I think their O-line will be much better. They're a year older, very young last year, so we'll see how it plays out there in Iowa City for my Hawkeyes. And my final contender in the West is the Wisconsin Badgers. New head coach Luke Fickell takes over after leading Cincinnati for a while, leading them to the college football playoff 2 seasons ago as the only group of 5 team to ever crash the party, which one of the best feats we will ever see in college sports. Basically, that is the equality of a 16 seed knocking off a 1 seed in the March Madness tournament, which has only happened twice ever in the expanded history of the tournament. But also now they bring in transfer quarterback Tanner Mordecai from SMU, who put up big-time numbers there. So the culture and the identity of Wisconsin is no longer going to look like Wisconsin of the last 30 years under previous coach Brett Bielema, under Paul Chryst last season, under Barry Alvarez, Coach Anderson. Big time changing of the guard there for the identity of the Wisconsin offense. And we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. How do I see that playing out there in Madtown and Madison this season? So those are my 3 contenders from the West Division. Now the East Division, no surprise here in alphabetical order. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Michigan brings back the most talent and depth on the lines of scrimmage, both offensive and defensive line. Studley backfield, quarterback J.J. McCarthy's back. Both running backs, Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, both return. Defensively, solid. Maybe some question marks in the defensive backfield, and maybe question marks for their offensive weapons on the perimeter. But still, Michigan has talent at wide receiver, but maybe need to see who's going to step up to be that big-time receiver and playmaker in the passing game for them. Ohio State, wow, you talk about questions at Ohio State. I mean, gone is quarterback C.J. Stroud. Enter quarterback Kyle McCord, who this is going to be his first legit time as quarterback. He did come in last season in mop-up time, but questions there at Ohio State for quarterback. When I say questions, I don't mean weaknesses. I mean, they're Ohio State. They they recruit at a different level than most of us, okay? So they're going to be talented, all right? But just question marks. How are they going to do at quarterback? And how is that defense going to be under defensive coordinator, I believe in his third year now, Jim Knowles? Are they going to get more physical? Can they play big boy defense? We'll have to wait and see. And Penn State. This is Coach Franklin's best team, most talented team that I believe since he's joined the Big Ten, since he's joined Penn State. But it comes down to quarterback play, the most important position, individual position in any sport. You have top prospect, 5-star Drew Allar takes over full-time this season as the signal caller. I hoped, and I think a lot of Penn State fans would have hoped this too last season, he would have gotten more time, but he didn't, just really in mop-up time. It really comes down to how quickly can he assimilate to Power 5 level football. That's what it comes down to. So question marks there at Penn State, and that's really their only weakness, guys, and maybe a little bit of weakness along the O-line as far as their physicality. That's going to be it. So it's definitely some questions, not weaknesses, also there at Penn State. All right? So now let's look at the first teams out of those three contenders from each division. Starting off in the East Division, it's Penn State. Because of what I just said, how quickly is Drew Allar going to become comfortable at this level? And they're going to play some legitimate teams. I mean, big-time defenses. He's going to have his work cut out for him. Weeks 3 and 4, they play at Illinois, which is one of those conference games that just missed being on my list of top 5+1 conference games. That's the first time of him playing any defense like that. Hard-nosed defense that's going to get after him. No disrespect to their week 1 opponent, West Virginia, but the West Virginia D, the physicality and talent versus the Illinois talent and physicality, you can't really make much of a correlation or a comparison there. You can't. So that's going to be a tough environment for him to go into. One of those games that's really under the radar. Week 3 and then week 4, my Iowa Hawkeyes travel to Penn State, as I mentioned. And Iowa's going to play physical. They're going to get after the quarterback, after the ball. Can he, at that point, find his comfort level? And the best time, as we all know, to pull an upset is early in the season against a brand spanking new, wet behind the ears quarterback. So we'll have to wait and see how those 2 weeks play out for Penn State. But because of that, I think they'll be the first team out from the contenders. And I do think they'll lose at least one conference game. My bold predictions, I said every team in the nation this year, except for maybe one, Georgia, will have at least one loss. And I think these 3 contenders in the East will kind of pick each other off. I do think Penn State will lose at Ohio State, but I think they'll turn around and beat Michigan in Happy Valley. And then I think Ohio State will lose at Michigan. All right? Then it comes down to tiebreakers and overall record, right? It's going to be absolutely bananas, all right, to see how that plays out. So Penn State, I think, is that first team out for the contenders. So in the East, I'll go right into who I see winning that division. Ohio State will match up with Michigan. I think that game, the last Saturday of the regular season, will determine who wins the Big Ten East Division. It's in Ann Arbor. Michigan is looking for an unprecedented 3rd straight victory over the Buckeyes. I think they will get it, and I think they will move on to face the Big Ten West Division champ in the Big Ten Conference title game. But I think Ohio State will still get a college football playoff invite. I think They will be one of the 4 invitees. They'll be basically the at-large bid. So that's one of the teams. I told you last week who my 4 college football playoff teams were, and I did already say it's with Washington, now Ohio State, Michigan, and LSU. Those are the 4 teams that I believe will get invites to this year's college football playoff. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Let me know what you think about my college football playoff field, by the way. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Now, the West Division. And this is going to be a little bit of a surprise. A lot of people aren't surprised that I'm picking Michigan to beat Ohio State to win that division, but I can see Ohio State getting it done as well. But I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with who I'm predicting is going to win the West Division, my division. All right? The first team out of my 3 contenders, I believe, is going to be Wisconsin. Now, a lot of people are high on Wisconsin, and I think it's really because of the beauty pageant that happens to be college football every now and then. Luke Fickell, I think, is why a lot of people, without hesitation, are picking Wisconsin to win this division. But I am not, because of what I alluded to a little bit ago. A brand new culture, a shift in styles. It's going to be difficult for them, Wisconsin, to make that transition quickly within a year. I just don't see it happening. Their schedule is not that bad. Toughest game in conference is that game they play. They host Ohio State. They host Iowa. They do go on the road to Illinois and Minnesota, as I mentioned. So those are going to be tough games. But I just don't think it's going to stick. I think they will have a lot of wins, 8, 9 wins potentially, because not just because of that schedule being a little bit soft, but I just don't think they're going to be able to get over the hump against the legitimate teams. I just don't think it's going to happen in year 1 because the roster that they have may not be ready for the air raid potentially that's going to be there in Wisconsin. And I think that really is a myth, guys. Wisconsin is not going to simply now just abandon the run game. They still have a stud running back in Braylon Allen after all, but they are going to be more pass friendly. And I just don't think they have the roster this season to do that. I mean, I know it was the spring game, but I got to bring this up. And Wisconsin fans, you can't really duck this, okay? I know it's early in camp. It's spring. They've had a lot more reps since then. It was breezy. There was some flurries that day. But how did that offense, that new-look offense, really look? Tanner Mordecai, the offense threw 5 interceptions, okay? 4 of those were thrown by Tanner Mordecai himself. The defense recorded, I believe, 10 sacks. Okay? Now, some of you might say exactly that. Well, Blair, it was breezy. There was some snowflakes. But it's Madison, Wisconsin. What's it going to be like at the end of October and November? I just have a lot of apprehensions about this team, guys, because of this big change. All right? I mean, change just doesn't happen overnight. I could be wrong. Let me know what you think. But 9-3... 10-2, I think, is the absolute max ceiling of this team. And plus, going on the road to Washington State is not going to be a cakewalk for them in non-conference as well. So, that leaves 2. Illinois and Iowa, I think, are going to fight to ultimately see who wins the Big Ten West Division. Now, I already mentioned that huge game. And I think that game, Iowa hosts Illinois. The winner of that game, I think, is going to be slightly ahead in winning the Big Ten West Division. Now, for all of you Iowa fans out there, my fellow brothers and sisters, next week I'm going to further break this down. My Iowa Hawkeye season preview and prediction show will be aired, so definitely feel free to check that in. I'm going to break it down game by game for you guys. So here's the thing. This is why I'm a little bit apprehensive. I already shared my apprehensions with Illinois, replacing quarterback, replacing a lot on the defensive side. But the schedules for these two teams they mirror each other. I'll start off with this. Both of these teams, Illinois and Iowa, neither play both Michigan or Ohio State. They both draw Penn State from the East Division. Iowa's at Penn State, but Illinois hosts Penn State. All right? And Illinois also hosts two other teams that I think are going to be potentials. I've already said they host both Wisconsin and Minnesota. All right? Iowa hosts Illinois and Minnesota, but travels to Wisconsin. All right? So these schedules are really going to kind of be a wash. All right? So who do I like to win? Iowa, the issues, the hesitations I have with them, the questions is the offense. Cade McNamara left early during the last scrimmage, the Kids' Day at Kinnick last weekend. He did come back out. He took himself out on a non-contact drill, something going on with his surgically repaired knee. He did come back, no crutches, no ice. He's listed as day-to-day, but all of us Iowa fans held our breaths until he returned from the locker room, all right? The depth in the Iowa quarterback room, it's question mark, okay? Now, is Iowa going to need a stud quarterback against Utah State? No. Against Western Michigan? Nada. Against Northwestern, Purdue, or Rutgers? 9. They're not, but they're going to need a solid quarterback, a much improved quarterback at least, against the upper echelon teams that they play. All right? When Illinois, I think they can afford not to have great quarterback play because of their identity and what they do best. All right? Iowa's defense and special teams will keep them in any game, even win them a game or two, as we saw last season. I mean, Iowa going 7-5 last year is still a miracle when you look at what they did, how bad, historically bad their offense was. And everyone is saying, oh, the new Iowa offense. A lot of us Iowa fans are saying that, but that is false. That is myth, all right? The same schmo is still running that offense in OC Brian Ferentz. It's just in the hands of a better roster, a roster that's proven to be a little bit more effective and efficient in quarterback Cade McNamara and some of these incoming receivers, okay? All right? So it's not a new offense, guys. I mean, and I'm hearing that being said way too much by us Iowa fans. That's not correct, all right? So even if I think Iowa is going to beat Illinois in that game in Week 12 in Iowa City, this is a surprise. I still think that Illinois, that's right. I'm picking the Fighting Illini to win the West Division, to get it done. I think they're just in a better spot from a schedule standpoint and a roster standpoint and the what-ifs that could happen than Iowa is. And hopefully I'm wrong, all right? I want our Hawkeyes to get it done, but I've told you guys time and time again here on the channel, I am not some Homer Simpson. I can be objective and subjective, okay, fairly, all right? I'm not blinded by my fandom, okay? So that's right. I'm picking Illinois, the Fighting Illini, to win the division and make their first ever trip to represent the West in Indy against Michigan. My winner, I think Illinois will come out very motivated, inspired, but Michigan is just way too much. If you didn't watch my bold predictions episode, I did pick Michigan to defeat LSU in the national championship game. So Michigan, I think, will be victorious and win the Big Ten for a third straight year, be potentially the number 1 seed in the college football playoffs, and get it done. So that's how I see the Big Ten Conference playing out, guys. Let me know what you think. I know I've gone a little bit long today. My apologies. And like I said, Iowa fans, tune in next week. Next week's episode, I'll have my Iowa season preview and prediction show. Will be much shorter than this one. I promise and guarantee you that. But hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. I'd like to thank you, and for myself and Admiral Akbar as well. Please, guys, get involved, comment, like, share, subscribe. Get out there. Let's keep this momentum going. Let's keep Big Mo on the side of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. So until next week, thank you for all you do. I appreciate it. Without you, none of this would be possible. So until next week, guys, let me know what you think. Have a great rest of your week. Be safe, be prosperous, take care, enjoy your week and weekends, and I'll see you next week on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Take care now. Bye-bye.